Good morning. It's all about trains, planes, and automobiles. I'm Mary Winters, and I'm the host of Visionary Aging, a gerontologist and the owner of About Senior Solutions. Let's jump right into our topic of travel, senior travel. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in Steve McCullough because we specially selected one of your questions to respond to travel. So let's go ahead and ask Steve what we have today. Steve, what question do we have today?
Good morning. I was waiting for my intro music. I'm so sorry.
Oh, what am I thinking? We can play it another afterwards.
No worries.
And then you can send your questions to info@About Senior Solutions. So go ahead.
Yep. So the question comes from a viewer. She has a 88-year-old mom, and they're headed back to Pennsylvania for a wedding. Her mom has a walker that she uses, but other than that, she's able to ambulate fairly well. And a viewer wants to know what suggestions we have for helping her mom get through the process, like get through the airport and maneuvering around once they're at their destination.
It's a really good question. And the best support you may get is call the airline directly who you're working with. Or who you're flying with, and ask for any extra transportation and support. They may pick her up in one of the little buggies or carriages and take her and all of her luggage and most of your family too, depending on how big your group is. And that's a huge help. They can also arrange for a wheelchair for her. If that's a preferred method, they can also have a wheelchair there for her waiting after you arrive, and wheel her in. And of course, you would have priority going onto the airplane. Another thing that might be good to look into, especially for foreign travel, but even when you go out of state, while Medicare is federal, sometimes some of our benefits are local in regards to our supplements or our HMOs with our doctors and so forth. So you might want to even look into some supplemental insurance and travel insurance while you're traveling, depending on what kind of situations you have, health conditions and so forth. So that might also be really helpful too. So I hope that answers their question.
Yeah, if I could just piggyback onto that. So my dad was in Ohio last October, and we had a similar situation where he could walk, but he walks very slowly.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did contact the airline and had someone pick him up at the gate in a wheelchair, and they got him through the airport, through the checking and all that other stuff and onto the airplane. And that was a huge help. And then coming home, he actually flew home on his own. And then we were able to work with the airline to get him down to the gates for us to pick him up after he got off the airplane too. So contacting the airline ahead of time, well enough in ahead of time, and making those arrangements is a huge asset.
It really is. And just knowing you have those extra privileges and support, get boarding first, that always makes it much less hectic to get on. Please take advantage of that. People with small children can do the same thing too. So when you're traveling with a huge, big family, multi-generational family for a big event like that, definitely call the airlines and take advantage of any kind of support that they'll offer. And sometimes if it's not, I think a direct flight is also easiest. But sometimes using those smaller airports might also be easier. So if you can get a direct flight to your location in a smaller airport, they're obviously easier to maneuver, park, and everything. So try smaller airports if you can. And if you can travel, we'll talk more about travel. How's that? We'll talk more about travel. So let's go ahead, and I think Melinda's on with us today too. We're going to have kind of a fun, simple show, but people are still traveling and weddings are taking place. I think most of the graduations are already done, but it's kind of fun to see who's going where, and we're really getting out again. So, hey, Melinda, how are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Yeah, great. So yeah, we're talking about senior travel today. What kind of tips do you have for us? in
Yes,
regards to your travel?
we have some travel tips. Contrary to popular belief, I do not recommend exercising on your vacation. I recommend relaxing. So, vacation is a time where we can get our bodies out of chronic fight or flight or chronic stress mode. So relaxing is the best thing to do when you're on vacation, even if it's an active vacation. And I think anywhere we go, because we're exploring the world, we're going to be semi-active, even online, even island vacations. You may go scuba diving or snorkeling or walking around the beach. Sometimes we don't realize how active we are on vacation, even when it's a, sit in the sun on the beach kind of vacation. So I don't think it's necessary to try to jam pack your vacation full of workouts or try to, that's not necessary, even if it's like a month. It's better to relax. Very important, especially for seniors, to stay hydrated, especially if there's a plane ride. The plane ride is very dehydrating, so making sure that you're drinking lots of water on the plane and after the plane and throughout your trip, avoiding alcohol on the plane, and just limiting, I think sometimes when we go on vacation, we tend to drink a lot more alcohol or sugary drinks than we would at home. So being mindful of that is going to go a long way to making you feel great on your vacation. There's packing healthy snacks and kind of like making sure within reason that you're choosing meals that, that are healthful for your body. So the best way to do this is to choose meals that are local, that it's like the local cuisine, they're in season. And those meals are going to be very balanced. So it's not going to be, eating processed junk, but really trying to embrace the local cuisine and choosing local fresh foods that are locally sourced. And that's going to be, I think that's going to make your vacation more interesting and certainly be a lot more healthful. And then trying as much as possible to have some sort of portion control. Because I think sometimes when we're traveling, we don't have a way to bring leftovers home. So sometimes we eat more, and the food might be delicious and things that we don't have access to or get to eat at home. So we might eat a lot more than we would at home as far as our portions. So a great rule of thumb is if you're traveling with other people, to split meals with other people. If you're traveling with two people, split an appetizer and a meal so you don't have so much food. And try to limit your portions by just sharing dishes. And then just, I guess the last thing I would have to add to that is booking some activity into your vacation. So not necessarily exercise, but go on some tours, see the sights, depending on where someone is going. Move, be active, go see where you're visiting. Don't just stay in the hotel room. And I think that makes for good travel, but it also is great for your body when you are traveling.
That's great. Those are great tips. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about getting yourself ready for travel. Seniors are typically not tied to school schedules, so you have a little bit of flexibility. So summer is great, especially if you're doing your traditional family gathering in locations that people like to go to every single year. But we also have the ability to plan things out outside of school vacations, which also brings the rates down a little bit too.
Yes.
So that's always kind of fun to save a little bit on something. And traveling to Europe can be really nice outside of the summer months. Going before or like September, October can be really beautiful going out there. And
sometimes the weather is better outside of those months, wherever you're going. I mean, it depends on where you're going, but yeah.
Yeah. And then going back to medication and the sun, there are a lot of medications that do not interact well or don't work well in the sun. So you may want to talk with your doctor before you leave on a trip where you're planning to be in much sun, because you want your medications to be as effective as possible or not to harm you if you're in the sun. And definitely thinking about those extra drinks that you might be having, will those interact with any kind of medication? I'm sure people are thinking about that, but it's like, it's a good thing just to check or ask. Or you know who else is a really good source is your pharmacist.
Yeah, I think even packing SPF clothing. I always pack SPF clothing just in case. Just in case I get a sunburn, then I've got that extra layer I can wear.
That's a great idea.
And along the same lines with the medication too, I think it's important to pack that stuff with your carry-on and don't pack it, right? Because God forbid something happens and your bag gets lost and you have that in a checked bag, and now all of a sudden your medication's gone. So you should always have that close to your person. So have that with on your carry-on, and then that way it's always with you. And you don't have to worry about that. One less hassle.
Yeah, that's very important.
It's really important. And along that line too, if you know you're going to run out of medication on your trip, and sometimes it could be a hassle because we really like to do the pill packs for all of our supplements and for our medications. You really should have your actual bottle for the refills. And so that way it's possible to get some of those things refilled if needed while you're out of the area. So, but you'll need your original bottle. Maybe a picture would do. Maybe calling a pharmacy close to where you're going to be traveling would also be helpful, so you can find out how you can pick up and do some.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that you should, before your trip, figure out if there are local pharmacies, just in case you need that. So you have that in advance.
So depending on what the medication is as well, sometimes if you make an appointment with your doctor, if you're not able to get the medication refilled before your trip because insurance won't cover it or any number of reasons, sometimes the doctors have some on hand, and then they can give you some from their office that would bridge the gap between what you would need on your trip and when you would be home.
Very true. Very true. So let's talk a little bit about getting around while you're out and about. Some of the accommodations, how about reaching out? We reach out to the airlines. How about reaching out to the hotels that you may be staying in and asking for special accommodations? They will definitely support you. They will let you know if they have wheelchairs or they don't have wheelchairs, and what you might need to bring. Or I haven't had to ship a wheelchair anywhere at this point, but it's something that you may want to consider, having a very light travel wheelchair with you that you check. In fact, your luggage, you want to make sure that you're not have to drag your luggage around if you don't have the support too. So check your luggage. Sometimes that's a pain, which goes back to Stephen's point of making sure you have your medications with you. Medication, maybe jewelry, some of those things. I always keep, because this has happened more than once, I always keep one like little overnight kind of a little thing, just a toothbrush, deodorant, one like little change of a t-shirt or something in undergarments, so that way you just have a little something with you just in case your luggage doesn't get to where you're going too. So you have some essentials with you. And that has happened more than once to me. So I'm very glad that I've had those little items, essentials with me.
I got married overseas and we had to put all of the wedding stuff in the carry-on. So you don't want to get there and have That's true. You may want to have just a light bag with you with your dress for the event and your shoes. That's a very good point. Some of those things you might just want to have with you too.
And going back to the hotel, you could also reach out to the hotel and say, hey, I'm traveling with my elderly parent and they don't get around very well. Can I have a room close to the elevator? Or can I have
That's true.
Don't put me in the back 40.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a great point, Steve. Yeah, really great point. Absolutely. Yeah. So how about we can even talk some more about travel, but how about we just jump over to the perk really quickly and see what's going on with the perk?
Sounds good.
All right. Let's see here. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Guess what day it is? I haven't ever heard of this before, but it is Buffalo Soldier Day. Have you ever heard what Buffalo Soldier Day is? It's
I've
very
not heard about the day.
back in back when we had segregation in our military, and during the Indian Wars, we had the Native Americans named the African American cavalry. They called them Buffalo Soldiers, so they nicknamed them the Buffalo Soldiers, and it really kind of stuck. But it was something that not everybody really knows about. So get the perk. We can share a little bit more about what that is and how significant it is in history and why you want to learn more. So go ahead and reach out to Ginny over at Ginny, Ginny, at About Senior Solutions, and she'll send this out to you for free. It's kind of fun because they also have, it's a great conversational piece. Every single day you get one of these. Has little puns and little silly facts, but also some interesting pieces in history. And then there's also a little word search. So noble and brave, you'll have all kinds of words that you'll be searching for. And it's a little bit of a challenge because I don't find it necessarily easy myself. So it's a nice little brain teaser, little fun thing for the brain to play with. So go ahead and reach out for your free perk. So Steve, how about this? What other kinds of things can we think of in regards to sightseeing or other trips for flying, for travel?
Comfortable shoes.
Oh, yes, very much so. Very much so.
Mm-hmm.
And
Melinda mentioned doing like excursions, getting out of the hotel. Some of those places, like if you were visiting Los Angeles and you wanted to go to the Huntington, if you needed some kind of accommodations for your elderly person there, like a wheelchair or something like that, you could rent those there. So if that would be helpful, you should reach out to some of the places you're going to and see if they have any of those kind of accommodations. Like, can you rent a wheelchair? Can you rent a walker? Can you need a walker?
that's true. Many museums offer them.
Yeah, museums. Yeah.
Yeah. And, places like Disneyland and so forth too. How about technology, taking your phones and making sure you have chargers?
Yeah. Even being able to figure out if your phone is going to work where you're going. Going to Europe, where my husband is from, for 6 weeks next month, and I don't even think my phone is going to work there. So checking those things as well.
Sure. So how will you reach out to families so they know where you are an important person in your life so that they know that you're safe and you're getting from one country to the next? How are you doing that? Call your phone provider, your cell provider, and see if you have the availability of using your phone abroad or not. I know there's some special things that you can do going to Mexico, and it just triggers. You just have to set it up. You just have to call. So call and check in on your phone. That'll be a good one too. And then
check in with your credit card companies as well. So bring your credit cards like out of the country. Sometimes that might be a red flag to a security department, and they might hold your credit card or freeze it. So the last thing you want to do is be out of the country, out of the state, and not have access to your credit card, especially if that's your more or less your sole means of paying for stuff out there.
Absolutely.
So make sure they know that you're away. Make sure they know generally where you're going to be, and if they were to see some charges from out of state or out of the country, not to be alarmed.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great idea to call your bank, call your credit card companies. Are you going to use credit cards? How about your cash? Are you going to carry cash with you? How are you going to keep that cash with you so that you don't have an issue too? And yeah, so we're just talking about money and cash and what kind of tips we have for that, and how many countries are you going to? So do you want to have a lot of cash from different areas? Although I guess we have the EU, so we still have that currency to be able to go pretty broadly across Europe. I just use credit cards, and they just transfer it automatically for you. So it's a pretty easy thing, unless you need some cash for tips and different things that way. So it's pretty nice.
Yeah, I had a friend who was out of the country recently. He called his credit card company to let them know, hey, we're going to be traveling. Don't be alarmed if you see these charges. And they still flagged his account, and he still had an issue with one of his credit cards.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, how about securing our homes and our pets before we leave?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to have someone checking in at home, especially if the trip is a long trip. We have a dog, so we try to find someone who will watch our dog in our home, so our dog doesn't have to leave her home, which is really nice. And that kind of kills two birds with one stone.
No, it really is. Those options are available, and there are probably your local chamber of commerce. You can reach out for some good referrals on that. There are pet portals, companies who will actually set somebody up to stay at your home or go over to your home to feed your dog routinely and walk them if needed. So, and then obviously there's doggy daycares too, so you can take care of that. But securing your house, your lighting, do you have the right lighting? Do you have sensor lighting that's really helpful? Somebody picking the mail up off your porch, those little things. I'm sure you're all very experienced as a senior with those things with travel, but just something to not lose sight of. So.
Also, from a social media standpoint, you should not be posting, hey, I'm going to be gone for the next 2 weeks. So excited about my trip for 4 weeks across the country, right? To let people know, hey,
I'm leaving at such and such time.
Right. Yeah, you have 2 weeks.
Yeah, very good point. Post the pictures afterwards.
About their trips. Exactly, yeah. People get really excited about their trips, and they want people to know, hey, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be there, this is what we're doing. But there, unfortunately, is that element that could use that against them.
Yeah.
Very good points. Really good points. How about we have a short commercial, and then Steve, we can come back and you can talk about this day in sports.
Sounds good.
All righty. Yeah, so we have our one-to-one program for life enhancement. So just give us a call if you are interested or have a family member you think it would really support. It's been incredible, the results that we're getting. So happy to talk with anybody about that. But Steve, tell us about this day in sports.
Sure. The year was 1984. The location was Los Angeles, our hometown. And in this date in 1984, the 23rd Olympics opened up, the Summer Olympics. They ran from July 28th through August 12th. The motto of the Olympics was play a part in history. And they have been known as the most successful modern day Olympics from a financial standpoint. There was a lot of concern about going into the Olympics. There was a Soviet boycott. 14 countries did not show up and participate in the Olympics, but 140 countries did. Peter Ueberroth was the organizer of the Olympics, and under his leadership, they generated about a $250 million profit from this Olympics. A lot of that had to do with low construction cost and the reliance on private funding, corporate funding. But it was just a huge success. The previous Olympics, the previous Summer Olympics were in Moscow. There was a huge, like the United States boycotted that Olympics. A lot of other countries boycotted that Olympics. The 76 Olympics were in Montreal, and it was a disaster from a financial standpoint. Mm-hmm. This was like the gold standard of Olympics. I don't know if you guys went to any of the events. There was events all over Southern California, from Ventura down to Laguna. Santa Anita Park hosted events, Dodger Stadium, so it was all over the place. The United States, of course, was the winner in total medal counts, at 174 medals, 83 gold, 61 silver, and 30 bronze. But one of the things I remember about the Olympics was McDonald's did a contest. And if you went into McDonald's, you would get a game card, and it was like a little scratch off. And it was a certain event, and if the United States won a medal in that event, depending on what medal they won, you got like a fries or free fries or a free like sandwich.
Yeah, I remember that.
Right, and because of the Soviet boycott, there was a lot of the Eastern European countries didn't show up, so the United States just dominated. And I think McDonald's took a huge hit on all the food they had to give away. But anyways, it's a great time.
Oh, that's funny.
Of course, we have the Olympics coming back to Los Angeles in 2028. So, the standard is very high on expectations, but I'm sure we'll meet it.
Yeah, it was fun. In fact, my dad was one of the sponsors. Their company was one of the sponsors for the Olympics. They printed the tickets. And nice. A lot of fun, a lot of interaction with Peter Ueberroth. And they really did. I think it was one of the first Olympics to actually make money. And I'm sure it's going to be triple, if not much more, for a sponsor coming into 2028, but I don't think anybody paid less than $1 million to sponsor in 1984. So really heavy fees, or heavy, the cost to play was, I'm sure it's still going to be really expensive in that. But do you remember how great the traffic was too? Because we said, whoa, nobody wants to be on the freeway. We got to really cut back, work from home. It was our
traffic was phenomenal experience. Yeah. Did you go to any events?
Several, yeah. Several gymnastics events, several track and field events, phenomenal athletes that we were able to see. I went to the close. I think my parents were both the opening and the close, and my dad was very involved with going to quite a few of the different events. In fact, I have his pen set with one of the tickets. I think it was for one of the track and field events on my desk that was mounted in little, acrylic, and so that sits on my desk. And I kind of inherited some of his little items from the Olympics, which was kind of fun. His Olympic pin that he wore, and kind of fun.
I didn't realize how expansive the venues were. There were venues literally all over Southern California, which is great. It's great involvement in different communities. So,
yeah.
Remember the torch relay?
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Oh, yeah. And that was a big sponsorship piece too. In fact, my landlord, who must be 96 now, actually carried the torch through a portion of LA.
Wow.
All, it was pay to play. And
right. Well, and the torch started in New York, and then it was.
That's right.
Yeah. So it was a big process.
It really was. Yeah. It started.
There was two cities that bid. Well, there's two cities in America that wanted to host Olympics. It's New York and Los Angeles, and the U.S. Olympic Committee could only support one city, so they chose Los Angeles. And like I said, it was a huge risk going in, but it was the gold standard of Olympics, modern day Olympics.
So, it'll be phenomenal again. Can't wait.
Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So, farewell for the weekend. Anybody celebrating anything fun or interesting?
Well, you're celebrating 16 years of being in business. So
we are. It's our Sweet 16. It's about Senior Solutions. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for all the impact you've had in our communities.
Yeah, and my mom, she's a young bride. She is turning 80 next week, and so we're taking her away for a special weekend. And my sister's flying in from out of town. And
what day is her birthday?
August 2nd. So,
I'm the 1st.
So oh my gosh! Wednesday. Happy birthday!
Yeah.
So you'll be celebrating your birthday this weekend too.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
It's our birthday weekend.
Yay! Oh, congratulations! Happy birthday!
Yeah, thank you.
Everybody, so what are you going to do to celebrate?
My mom is in town.
Oh,
this is the first time in a long time that I've seen my mom on my birthday. So we'll go out for dinner, and I know we're going to go to Santa Barbara for the weekend this weekend.
Nice.
So yeah, just
fantastic.
Get out of the heat.
Get out of the heat. Yep. I know it's a perfect weekend to go away to the beach areas. So for sure. Yep. So travel well, travel safe. Think about your safety and plan so that you're not exhausting yourself. And I think one last thing that you would add, Melinda, is hydrate.
Yes. Hydrate.
All right.
It's going to be a hot one.
Is
your mom turning 80?
She's turning 80. The lady
is 80. Big one too.
Yes.
That's wonderul.
Pretty exciting. So.
Well, tell her I said happy birthday.
And I'll let her know it's your birthday too. All right, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Great show.
All right.